Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome to the Best Mom Ever podcast, your place for learning how to create a close relationship with your teen, even if they have already shut you out. I'm Allison, and I want to help you get out of struggle and into trust, happiness, and confidence with your teen without throwing pills at the problem. Thanks so much for listening, and we are glad you're here. Hello, beautifuls. Welcome to the Best Mom Ever podcast. I'm Allison and I'm your host. I'm so excited to share this new content with you. We get to talk about boundaries today. Woohoo! Actually, I am really excited about it. So get ready to dive in. We are going to talk about why good boundaries are so hard and what we love about great boundaries. So this is actually my second recording of this. I did a practice round a few minutes ago. And it's really important that I share with you what I think boundaries are. So to me, boundaries are social rules and limits that we use to relate with our community and friends in a loving and safe way. So we'll start by talking about why good boundaries are so hard. So I really want to lead with, if you struggle with boundaries, it is not a personality flaw. It's not just because you have terrible willpower, okay? I think that willpower is sort of overrated, to be honest. And we really get to create the healing, the foundation for choosing intentional responses for what we're doing that is not based solely in willpower. Willpower is what we're going to use to form better habits, not something that we're going to berate ourselves for not having more of. Okay. So the reason, if it's not willpower, that boundaries are so tough, honestly, for the most part, is because we don't know what they are. I'm going to talk about my early dating experiences a little bit. I've just gotten back into this after getting divorced in 2021. So basically, when I first started dating, it was like a huge mess. I was like, I just don't even know what I'm doing here. Like emotionally, I feel like just super out of place and all over the place. And I mean, what am I even doing? I'm not using good rules and judgment. What's going on? And then I was like, wait, I don't even know what my boundaries are. I have not even sat down with a pen and paper and written this down. I really need to know what this is going in. So that was super eye-opening and humbling and okay, I'm going to make sure that I know what my boundaries are. Okay, but where do we start? Okay, so these are sort of some of the core elements that I think we need if we're going to intentionally create a good set of boundaries around ourselves. So values, okay, why something's important. This is going to go a really long way if you have teenagers, and hopefully this topic is super supportive for you if you have teenagers. But when we're having conversations with them, we don't get to just hand down rules anymore and say because I said so, because that's what it is, right? We really get to think about the reasons that we have the boundaries that we've put in place. And usually we have a good reason, right? But if we know what our values are, if we can always bring it back to these essential elements of respect, for example, or self-respect, or, love for our family, then it just makes it so much easier to explain and empower our young people to set limits for themselves that are going to be safe and create a great life for them. So values. The other reason, and I've touched on it already in this conversation, but safety. Okay, so we're creating boundaries as sort of a safety net around ourselves. Okay, we talk about the bubble, but it sort of is it's a little bit flexible. It's not just going to pop if someone gets too close, right? Maybe context is going to play into how we adjust what our limits are between ourselves and other people. Maybe we are a little bit more flexible on our bedtime, for example, with our teenager, if they have something important that comes up, or if they, or if you happen to have a little bit of extra sleep, maybe you have more you can give. So that's why it's a boundary and not a hard line rule or wall. Okay, but it's creating safety for you. So the safety could look like our house, physical safety, protect us from the bugs and the rain and the heat and the cold. which is definitely an example of boundaries creating safety for us, even though they're definitely walls in this case. But we can also create social or like emotional safety for ourselves. Like maybe, you have an aunt that really loves to bring up, a topic that makes you feel uncomfortable, or someone that wants to bring up politics during family dinners. And you're like, this really doesn't have space for me because it makes me really uncomfortable. People might start to get like angry and start yelling at each other. And that's going to make me feel really unsafe. So I'm going to create this boundary. For me, noise is a really big thing. So it'll set my nervous system on edge. So my body thinks that I'm unsafe if there's a lot of noise. So being more sensitive to the things that make us feel unsafe so that we can be more proactive about protecting ourselves where those areas are. Okay. And the other one is well-being. We get to protect our self-care. Whatever self-care looks like for you. Okay. This literally could be spending time reading or brushing your teeth or, like making sure that your kids leave you alone during your bedtime routine. Like it could be anything that's supporting your well-being that you need boundaries to protect so that you can relate to your family and community in the best way. Okay, so that was we don't know our boundaries. Now we're going to get into we often aren't able to do a great job with our boundaries because other people have not respected them in the past. Okay, people have been mean to us when we've created boundaries. People haven't understood them. They've gotten angry. They've lashed out at us. Maybe we've been dismissed. Oh, you're just silly. Oh, silly. It's one of those words that makes my skin crawl. And I'm like still learning how to get out of the habit of it. But I realize that it's such a dismissive term in so many cases that like, you have this thing that you want to protect for yourself. You're like, okay, this is I don't want to talk about this, or I'm trying to think of some other great examples of like, protecting your time and being like, I'm actually able to say no. But I'm just thinking about in relationships times when I've like articulated my needs and then been told that I'm silly. And I feel like that is such a defeater. And like, yeah, so next time that it comes up, of course, it's going to be harder for me to create a boundary, even with a different person. Or if it came up in childhood where our trusted adults dismissed our need for safety. And so we've kind of learned to shut that off and not really protect ourselves in the best way for us to be able to function. We've sort of gotten into this survival level of boundary setting, and maybe we get to make that shift. So we want to create a safe environment for ourselves. Okay. So here's the other one that makes boundaries so hard is we don't know our value or we've been stuck in people pleasing. Okay. So this is a really tough one. And if you find yourself in people pleasing, then it's not something to beat yourself up about. Again, it's not something to beat yourself up about because like people pleasing is another way that we've learned to survive. But the thing is that when we are giving from a place of obligation, it's much more likely that we're going to find ourselves depleted. And if we can give from a sense of generosity, of overflow, like I have lots of artistic talent, for example. So, like, I could give my time in a way that could be, served with art rather than, making another pie and washing dishes and like whatever else that I would have to do to contribute to X, Y, and Z potluck. Like there is a way to contribute to your community and be expressed in a way that is giving from your abundance and not from an empty cup. Okay. So maybe you do need to say no sometimes instead of getting caught up in people pleasing because there is something more valuable that you have to give. And your time, your essence is valuable. So that is not something that's going to change. Okay. So that goes into this piece about people pleasing and knowing our value. Okay. What do I want to contribute? Okay. Now let's talk about why we love good boundaries so much. Okay. So boundaries do three things. At least I broke it down for three for the sake of conversation today. So the people in our lives, the people that we have in our lives, they do care about us. Even the ones that don't do a great job showing it, like teens, even they want to treat us better. And we want them to treat us better. But they're never going to know how to do that unless we tell them what we're needing, what is important to us. Like, what are our love languages? What are our limits? What can we give? What can't we give? These are all really important to be aware of, and that will help other people that care about us to do a better job with us. I was texting with someone in the dating world. They kept like dropping off in the middle of the conversation. They were doing a great job of taking care of their own well-being needs by going to bed at a decent hour, something that I could do better at for sure. But they weren't telling me that the conversation was over. They were just kind of like dropping off and going to sleep. And I was like, hey, like, I don't really like that. I wish that you would like say goodnight. Easy enough, easy fix. Never happened again. Always text goodnight whenever we're finished with the conversation. So this gets to be a way that we are just really able to share that we need something. And that's actually great. Like, it makes everyone happier. Like, thank you for telling me what you needed so that I could be a better friend to you. Like, hey, what a great way to look at boundaries and to frame boundaries. Just be a better friends, right? Okay, so another reason that we love good boundaries is because they help us to be more loving and better regulated in our relationships. All right, so everybody's talking about nervous system and being self-regulated. Great, I love that stuff. I'm an OT. But like, what does that mean? Like, how do we actually make sure that that happens? Well, if we are teaching the people around us actively what we need for us to be able to relate within the limits of safety and our values and our well-being, then our nervous system is going to be in a much better place. We're going to be so much more chilled out if we're not getting burned and triggered and pinched and bumped and rubbed up against all of our boundaries, all of the things that make us feel triggered or uncomfortable. If those things are able to be more settled, if we're able to create safety and protection around ourselves in a way that feels great, then we're just going to be that much more loving and calm and kind and present in all of our interactions with all of the people that we care about. So they're so mutually beneficial. That's the thing. Like, especially when people are new to boundaries, they can get really like kind of their panties in a wad, feel a little on edge that like, how dare you set this limit? But it actually is a beautiful, beautiful thing because what? Then we don't become resentful of the people that actually want to care about us in our relationships, in our lives, right? Okay, so here's another one that is so important. Friends with great boundaries are easy to get along with. Okay. So it can feel triggering at first when it's new and people are like, oh, well, I have this thing that's really important. And, you get to look at it and respect it. And then but once you kind of accommodate to that maybe being different than how it's been in other relationships, you're like, wow, like you're so much more able to be present and kind and respectful and giving, and your responses are better. Like when I need something, right? Because you're so calm and loving and well regulated because you have great boundaries, right? So if you want to be a great friend, if you want to have great friends, let's look at this boundaries thing. Oh my goodness. And then even like when you think about your teenagers, like I've had conversations with moms before where they're talking about like, friends coming over. And there's so much that goes into these conversations. And it's like when one friend is loud or doesn't have a good sense of boundaries, like they're a less good friend and they're not able to come and socialize in the same way that maybe a friend that is more thoughtful and present and has better boundaries, better awareness of what the rules in the house might be, sort of instinctively, maybe, or based in their own curiosity about being observant about what a family might appreciate in terms of sort of unspoken rules or expectations. So this can definitely apply to your teenagers as well. So this has been a podcast from Best Mom Ever. Like I said, Allison here, and we are talking about why boundaries are so hard and what we love about good boundaries. I want to share with you a quote, and I actually dug it up and then lost it again. Hold on just a second. Okay, this comes from The Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown, and she quotes Prentice Hempfield. And he says that boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. So, yeah, let's get those social limits in place so that everyone gets their needs met. If boundaries have been hard for you in the past, and this has been like a whole bunch of new information thrown at you, let me give you some more. Okay, so if you're wanting to actually get more out of this conversation, if you're wanting to apply some of this stuff, then I would invite you to spend some time in curiosity with your own boundaries. Like, look at the times when you're getting frustrated with your friends, when you're feeling burned out. Like, maybe there's a place for more boundaries for you in an area. Maybe you need to set that boundary a little bit further away from yourself than it had been previously. Okay. And if you have friends that have great boundaries, like that's a great thing to be in curiosity about too. Or if your teenager has a boundary, like just spend some time with why that might be important. How could what they're asking for protect their well-being, their safety, or their values? Okay. And if you want to practice better boundaries, it can be really helpful to start with some safe people. Like, okay, so it might not always be safe to confront a loud family member that wants to shout about politics all the time, but it might actually be safe to tell one of your children, like, hey, I would really appreciate it if you just made sure you texted me back. Okay, I got your text. Not right now, I'll get back to you later. That would really make me feel like a better mom, like I don't have to worry as much about you. I don't need you to give me a long response. You can just, text me KK, and then I'll know that you got my message. Thanks. So like if we have safe people in our lives, then we can practice some of that stuff with them. Maybe you have a good friend that has been doing something that kind of gets on your nerves that you could share with them. And last but not least, my beautiful mamas and parents and grandparents and mentors, don't forget to love yourself. Enjoy your beautiful day. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk soon. Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you know that you want to have a great relationship with a young person in your life, but you are still struggling, I have an opportunity for you. I am a parenting teens strategy specialist with years of experience working with parents to build stronger, more connected, peaceful relationships with their kids. And I am filling the last handful of spots in my Best Mom Ever private program. If you love what you hear and you know you need more support, book a free Trust and Freedom Breakthrough call with me. On that call, we'll have the opportunity to get clear on what you really want in your relationship with your teenager, figure out what might be missing from your parenting strategy, discover what might be blocking your relationship and keeping you from that closeness, and really learn how to make your young person want to share what's going on with them, their heart. Okay? We'll discover what it takes to get the peaceful, connected relationship that you want, even if you think it's too late. These calls will be available for a limited time, and they are free, so go ahead and grab one. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye.